Welcome to the DrumChats podcast, where we're talking anything and everything to do with drums. Today's topic, kick drum pedals. Here are your hosts, Travis Davis and Dave Douglas. Hey everybody, you're listening to the DrumChats podcast. My name is Travis, and sitting on my computer screen in a small window is my co-host Dave Douglas. Dave, how are you, man?
This window is very small. I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I was just telling you about how I'm being pulled in so many different directions right now, so I feel like my head's like spinning with all the tasks I need to do. But I generally think I'm doing okay. I'm surviving. Yeah.
You're here. Yeah. You're here now. We're talking, so you're doing something right.
I guess so. I showed up. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Here I am.
So today we're talking about kick pedals. And
we've kick pedal 101.
Yeah, kick pedal 101. And it's like you and I've talked about before, there's a lot of different things that go into kick pedals.
Oh yeah.
Especially because with drums, like there's tuning and different heads and different shells and stuff, but kick pedals, the mechanism itself, and because of how much mechanics that go into them, it's like a whole different ball game. And so I think over the next little while, we're going to be talking about those kick pedals and different options, some standard, some mutant pedals, and
exactly.
that maybe most people shouldn't buy, but
that's right.
We'll get into that. So to start, I play a single kick pedal. There's like the 101, there's a single pedal and a double pedal. I have a DW 5000 pedal and a 9000 pedal. Dave, what do you use? You use Iron Cobra, is that right?
Yeah, Tama Iron Cobra is where I've been for a really long time. Like most drummers, I've used a few other ones and I've played on some different ones, throughout my drumming years. And at like one-offs, like fly dates when I didn't bring my own kick pedal, and those days suck.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say that if you don't have your own kick pedal, it's like one of the things that are touching your body and touching the drum. So it's like if you show up and you use someone else's sticks, it's like it's contacting you. It's like part of the feel of what's happening. So not having your own and what you're used to is really dramatic when you don't have that,
Yeah.
So, but it's kind of like maybe a little bit underappreciated in that way. It's like car tires. It's like the one part of your car that touches the road, but a lot of people don't feel like their tires are the most. They just like, I'll get the cheapest ones,
Right.
So don't get cheap kick drum pedals. I guess maybe that's what I'm getting at. I'm not sure if that's what I'm getting at, but what I'm saying is that it's pretty important, and it is contacting you. So it is definitely a big part of the feel of what's happening and being comfortable doing what you're doing.
Right. Well, and too, like you said, one of the things that, like the first kick drum pedal that I ever bought was the DW Accelerator single pedal. I think it's like a dual chain drive.
Okay.
And recently, Chad Butler, I bought his 9000 pedal, and I was worried that for one.
What do you mean you bought his 9000 pedal?
So Switchfoot did their reverb sale
you
thing.
You literally bought. Yeah, you bought his pedal.
Heck yeah, I did. I mean, it was like half as.
That's funny.
It was like half the price of what it would have been retail.
Yeah,
and it was
that's great.
And I mean, like the sentiment of it being on some of my favorite songs ever. Like it was on the Nothing Is Beautiful Letdown record. So
that's awesome.
But I was worried, like talking about the different feels and playing other kits or whatever. Was the 5000, like I loved the way that it kind of made you work for it in a sense. And the 9000, a lot of the 9000 pedals are known to be just like too perfect, like too smooth. And some people love them and some people don't.
Okay.
But
well, yeah, I mean, they're all these different models of pedals. They're really different, but across the different brands. And then most brands have, different lines that are like maybe more economical or like the super top of the line ones, and they all feel different. So you definitely have to play around with them and, put your feet on some of them in the store or something like that and figure out what you want, because they all are way different. Personally, like I can't stand DW 5000s. Can't stand them. I hate them.
Well, before we get into the like the different
Yes.
types of pedals and the preferences. Let's talk about the brands really quick. We've already covered DW and Tama. There's Pearl. I
Yeah.
know Tay makes some. I think it's Tay, Taye. I guess that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, I don't know about
Sonar,
them.
Mapex.
Yeah, Sonar.
I mean, I feel like everybody, even Ludwig makes their own pedals. I feel like every drum
Yeah, there's a
maker
ton.
makes their own
Yeah.
pedals.
Did you mention Axis is one?
Oh, Axis, yeah.
Yeah, they make some stuff. And then Gibraltar makes any kind of drum hardware and pedals, like Gibraltar's one for
Yeah.
sure. Yamaha, pretty much everyone. Everyone makes
Right.
them.
Right.
And they're all, they all have their own flair or whatever, but they're all kind of working off the same basic principles with the same, when it comes down to it, the same type of designs. There's a few differences that the different companies have introduced, but generally you're talking about some sort of a foot plate that connects by some sort of mechanism to a cam, which turns the beater to actually contacts the beater and throws it at the kick drum head. So it's really only a handful of basic parts.
Yeah.
But everyone has their little take on it,
Yeah.
So actually maybe we should mention that real quick about what some of the different mechanisms or parts are of the drum kits, or of the drum kits. What am I talking about right now? Of the kick pedal. I'm
Yeah.
really getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. I think it differs too, depending on the design. You've got single pedal and double pedal, but say we're talking about just a single pedal. You got, your typical foot plate. Gosh, I don't even know all the different parts, but there's even in the type, like going into the different drives, like there's chain drive and belt drive, direct drive, and
yeah, those are the three big drive types. And what we're talking about there is what connects the footboard to the cam, and the cam is the part of the pedal that actually turns, that the beater is in. So whatever connects the cam and the footboard is the drive. And yeah, it's one of three things really. It's either a chain, which I think is the most common, right?
Yeah, typically.
Chain, and those usually come in single or double chains. And then there's the strap.
Yep.
Which I think like back in the day used to be the most common, but now it's just and there are like new types of materials that they use for the straps, but I think they kind of went out of vogue because they were traditionally, I think they were made of leather, and so they would just, over time, they would just wear and snap eventually.
Right.
And then the third type, drive type, is the direct drive, which is like a piece of metal, literally like a metal linkage.
Yeah.
That connects directly between the footboard and the cam, so there's no play whatsoever. Whatever happens to one happens to the other.
Yeah.
Of course, with the chain and the strap, there's play in there. So it can get loose as you're like lifting the pedal up. And so there's moments where they're not quite connected between the two pieces of the pedal. So some people like the direct drive for that reason, that it's like very, very solid, very connected, and very exact as far as what's happening with your footboard happening with the actual beater. So those are the three big, I think they're kind of the three big distinctions. Like maybe one of the first questions I would ask if someone's like, hey, I've got a kick drum pedal here for you. I might ask that first. Like, what drive type is it?
Yeah.
I think it's maybe the largest distinction. But of course there's like a bazillion little adjustments and things that are different from one company to another and one model to another, but that's a big one certainly.
Yeah. And even the tension of the spring, I don't think all of them, actually I think there are a couple that don't use a spring for the tension or the rebound, but I know for me, like for a while I would just like tighten my spring a lot to get that immediate response of my foot. But talking about the direct drive, like I mentioned before, I work at Drum Paradise here in Nashville, and one of our clients is Chris McHugh, who's a big session drummer here, and he just got a new kick pedal. It's the DW machined direct drive, and it looks like it came off the International Space Station. And but talking about the direct drive, I know a lot of people don't like the direct drive, and I've never personally played one, But the sound of it, like it does what you tell it to do, whatever that is. That almost sounds like it would be a good thing.
Yeah, like in theory, if you like talking about what characteristics a direct drive pedal has, it definitely sounds like a good thing. It just comes down to feel, really what you're used to and playing style. I don't know, man. I mean, I've never owned one, and I also don't know that I've ever even played one. I've always used a chain drive. But I think I would like to try one, certainly. You know, it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk more about it.
Yes, sir. Hey guys, it's Dave, and it's story time. So there was this one time. Every story starts like that, right? There was this one time. But seriously, there was this one time. I think we were playing a show, Reliant K. I think we were playing a show in Baltimore. And I could be wrong, and I can't figure it out, actually. I was just trying to see if I could jog my memory and look back at a few things, look back at tour dates, things like that. And I just could not, for the life of me, figure out where this actually happened. But I think my hunch is that it happened in Baltimore or similar. So those of you who know Reliant K are maybe aware of our song, Sahara. It's a pretty aggressive song, especially for Reliant K. It's definitely like one of our kind of our rockers, you know? And I get to kind of mash at the drums a little bit. And it's actually a song that when I had left the band for a long time, my buddy Ethan Luck he took over playing drums. And this is one of the songs that he wrote all the parts for and created, and is actually a really pretty cool experience, actually, then coming back to Reliant K and having to learn the parts in the songs that Ethan created. I really enjoyed it. He certainly plays things differently than I do, and I really liked figuring out what he did and just kind of gaining the experience of being in someone else's head. You know, I've had the opportunity to write my own parts on so many songs that most of my experience drumming is playing my own material. So a lot of people I know talk about records that they learn drums to, or like really studied, or bands that they're really big fans of, and they just like learn those songs and those beats and those fills and things like that. And it's honestly not a big part of my drumming experience. You know, I've spent most of my time playing my own stuff. So this was actually a really interesting time playing songs for people that people knew, and I had to get up and play them. You know, and I might put my own tiny little spin on them and do things just a little bit different than Ethan did. But for the most part, I really tried to stick to what Ethan did because I really liked his drum parts a lot. And so Sahara is one of those songs. So yeah, all that to say, it's a heavier song for Reliant K. Pretty good tempo, you know, it's clipping along a little bit. It's certainly not like a blast beat punk song or anything, but it's a rock song, you know? And so yeah, it's heavy. Anyway, I think this happened in Baltimore, getting back to my original point. And it was probably 20 seconds tops into the song, and I put my kick drum beater through the head on my kick drum. And I've only done that a handful of times. I've broken some kick heads, but just not that often. You know, I've broke a lot more snare heads. But even that, as I got deeper into my drumming career, I did less and less, to be honest. But so anyone who's broken a head during a show knows like how horrible it is, because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Like, you have to play the rest of the song with whatever you're left with. And it's really pretty awful when, I suppose it's kick or snare. Either one's really terrible. You hit them both a lot. So when you're missing one, it's like half your drum parts are gone. They don't exist anymore. So the problem, of course, with the kick drum is, you know, just the whole bottom drops out. You've still got bass guitar and whatnot going on in the song, but all of that power, that impact of the kick drum and the real like thump in your chest, like power, live show, heavy song, really aggressive, it's just all gone. So it's so frustrating. But anyway, yeah, so it was like 20 seconds in the song, poof, right through the kick drum head. And then here I am left to play like the next 3.5 minutes of this heavy song with no kick drum. And the other thing that's crazy about it too is when you lose something like that, it feels really weird. And sometimes it's like, it's a little bit hard to even play your parts. Like, so I was still playing my kick drum parts, even though I wasn't hitting anything. In fact, if I remember correctly, the beater went through the kick drum head and then it stuck in the kick drum. It never came back out. It was just like in the kick drum, right? So the pedal was just all the way to the floor, my kick drum pedal. And so I'm still kind of pretending like I'm like air kick drumming so that I can still play all my parts, because like when I play, it's so much about muscle memory and things are happening so quickly that I'm so used to the way things are supposed to be happening. If you eliminate one appendage, everything feels wrong, and I'm probably going to play a bunch of stuff really weird or wrong or forget parts or whatever. So I'm up there just like air kick drumming and feeling kind of like a fool, like hitting cymbals with no kick drum. There's nothing so wimpy as like doing a fill, no kick drum whatsoever. So it's really, it's a real bummer. Anyway, maybe if you were at that show, maybe drop us a comment or something and let me know where it happened, because I just don't remember. Okay, that's it. Back to the show, guys. Bye.
Hey guys, we're back from story time, and we're talking about continuing talking about the types of drives on kick pedals, whether it's chain, strap, or direct drive. Dave, you said that you use a chain drive on the Iron Cobra. Is that right?
Yeah. It's like the double chain, the double width chain. It's like super heavy duty and sturdy, and you can kind of put those pedals through hell and they come back and keep working.
Yeah.
So I really like the Iron Cobra stuff. It has a lot of adjustments on it, so it's a really it's a pedal that can feel the way you want it to because of the adjustments that are available on it. But it's definitely heavy duty, and sturdy and a stable pedal as well. And of course I like that because, if you go on the road and play 50 shows and, 65 days or whatever it is, you need a pedal that's going to hold up.
Yeah.
Getting tore down and thrown in a case and doing all kinds of stuff to it. So it's got to hold up, of course.
Yeah. I'd like to know the reason why the build of different kinds. Like, there's one thing to say that the kick pedals just evolved over time. Like, it started with strap drive and then went to chain and then went to direct drive. But there's guys now who still play strap drive, or belt drive, I should say.
Right.
And I'd like to learn more of why, like, I guess talk with some of those people who use one over the other. Like you and I use a dual chain drive because of X, Y, and Z. But I'd like to know, I don't know, I'd like to talk with people who use a belt drive for X, Y, and Z. Like, I prefer this over chain. And I can't picture what those reasons would be.
Yeah, I've heard the belt drive kind of described as a little bit more like natural, organic feeling, for whatever that means. That's always very murky, what that actually means. But it seems to be kind of like a jazz or a folk or, those kind of styles. People who, if you're going to find someone using a strap drive on their kick drum pedal, it tends to be those kind of people who are playing those types of music. So I don't really know exactly what the benefits are to it. Certainly the feel. It seems like the feel is kind of the deciding factor there, and might be the reason why you'd choose that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I've always gone with the chain, but I'm super interested in that direct drive though, since I've never used one.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about, the only reason I keep bringing up DW is just because it's what I use. But I know a lot of guys don't like the 9000 because of how smooth it is and how responsive it is, even as a chain drive. And
it's so interesting. I don't know why that would be a bad thing.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
It makes no sense to me. Like, isn't that the goal? Don't you want it to be as responsive and like precise and smooth as possible? Isn't that what all the companies are trying to do?
I would think so, because I had that mindset when I was just playing my 5. But then when I got this 9000, that's all I use. And I noticed a difference whenever I went from the 5000, because I'd played that for, 10 years and then moved to this 9000.
Right.
I would like to go back to my 5 and see how it felt, but it felt
You
smooth.
should.
It felt smoother for sure, but it's so comfortable for me now.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, with the smoothness, and that a lot of that has to do with not only the cam but also the type of ball bearings that are used in it. But that being said, I would like to try this machined direct drive, like where it's already got better bearings and on top of being direct drive. I just can't imagine how much more smooth it could get.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, and we should play off of that a little bit as far as like being responsive. One thing, well, let's talk about the cam real quick, the cam of the pedal.
Yeah.
Because there's really two basic types of cam. There's like a, what do they describe it as? Like I know with Iron Cobra with Tama, they call it, there's the, rolling, is it roller glide? And then there's the power glide. And that's either just like a, I can't remember what do they call it. It's like it's offset cam, or what's the other term besides offset cam?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can't think of what it's called. I'm trying to find it right now. I know exactly what you're talking about, where the chain is. Are you talking about where it's offset from the beater?
Yeah, and it's even the shape of the cam, like where as the strap or the chain or the direct drive pulls down on it. So, I guess maybe it's just a rounded cam. I don't know, rounded cam or an offset cam. Basically, it's the shape where your chain or your strap or whatever kind of connects around the cam, around the shaft that actually is connected to the beater itself. So if you have a rounded cam, then it's the same shape all the way around. So as you push your foot pedal down to the floor, the beater moves, and it's moving in the exact same ratio all the time as with your pedal, right? So it may be faster or slower than your pedal, but it's consistent that same way. With the offset cam, as you push your foot pedal down, the beater accelerates. So as you get down to the bottom, less movement on your foot actually creates even more movement at the kick pedal. So it can actually really create more power with your kick pedal. So people who play fast or want to play hard and loud like those offset cams, because the pedal, the beater actually speeds up as it goes, even though your foot is just going the same speed going down.
Right.
So, and I actually used to use an offset cam back in the day, but my tendency with my feet is to always be ahead. And so I felt like, hey, I need to first of all, I need to be a better drummer and not be ahead with my feet, lay back in the pocket a little bit more.
Sure.
But beyond that, I wanted to try to get hardware kick pedal that would actually help me to do that. So I actually went away from the offset cam and just went to the rounded one so that it actually didn't accelerate. Because I felt like maybe it's just helping my foot to be ahead of the beat all the time, so I wanted to try and counter that. So I actually went away from that. But I think it's certainly a cool idea, and I really would like to be able to use it. But for me, it just hadn't really worked in the past. And so once I switched to a roller, the rolling roller glide, Tama Iron Cobra, I never switched back, so I just been sticking with that the whole time, the rounded cam.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking at an article on Reverb that's actually describing what you said, and they're calling it either round or oblong, and that makes sense because like if it's round, it's just following the contour of that shape. But if it's oblong, it's almost like putting leverage on an edge and propelling the other side a lot faster.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that you went back, because I feel like my instinct is to think that a lot of guys would start with round and then go to oblong because, it's better, it's quicker. But it's
exactly.
But it's cool to hear you say like, well, I did the oblong and now I'm back to round. Because of this. I need to study more on my pedal because I don't even know what I think the 9000, does the 9000 actually come with extra parts or like different cams you can put on it? I mean, maybe you didn't get that, but I think if you buy one new, it might have extra parts that come with it, and you can actually decide what to make it. If it did, Chad held out on me.
I bet he did.
Chad, if you're listening. No, I'm kidding.
I bet he did.
I think you're right, because even looking at photos of it, I can already see that there's different there's different designs of cams already. I don't know. I know Pearl does that, where they have them color coded.
Oh yeah, and Pearl has that one like crazy, like nutty, what do they call it? A power shifter eliminator or something insane.
Yeah.
And doesn't it come with like all kinds, or maybe it's the one that, or maybe it's this other one, the Pearl Demon P3000.
I've heard of the Demon, yeah.
I don't know, but I think it comes with all kinds of extra parts, and you can really customize it, you know, which is super cool, of course, but then you have extra parts.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's funny, us talking about just the cam itself. I'm looking at a picture of a 9000 and a 5000. Again, both being ones that I have, and the 5000 is a round, but the 9000 is oblong. And so
and those are like stock maybe?
From the picture I'm looking at, yeah. I'll have to put mine side to side and check them out, but that I can see why that would make the 9000 seem a lot smoother than the 5 just right out of the box because of the cam design already. Not to mention the bearing edges, not bearing edges, ball bearings and the spring tension and all that stuff. But
yeah,
it's crazy.
There's a lot of parts in there, so there's a lot of things that can you know, be improved, or be, you know, the manufacturer can save a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, but it's a lot of parts, so they definitely all add up. And I guess that's a big part of, you know, the reason why the price range is pretty significant between some of the lower model pedals and the higher stuff. Some of the things are really obvious as far as like, oh, this pedal's really heavy duty and this one's like really kind of chintzy or whatever.
Yeah.
But even within ones that are in that medium range, they can go anywhere from, you know, like a little over $100 to like $300 or $400, you know? So it's pretty dramatic. So, I would imagine any manufacturer can, like, you know, throw some extra, like some better bearings in it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it can definitely bump the price up a little bit. So,
right. Yeah. Well, and again, like almost everything else we've talked about is that it all comes down to preference. Cause I mean, the 5 and the, like, again, DW, for instance, 5 and 9000 seem to be pretty typical, but you look at like the 8000 and it's got like diamond plated steel on the bottom plate. And then there's
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, dude, it's
an 8000.
It's an 8000, yeah. But then you look at like the 3 and the 6 and the 7000, where they don't even have the plate on the bottom, where it's just like the little.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's on the floor. I don't know what you call that plate, like a foot plate or
and
back plate. I don't know what you call it.
And
but
then and then the other style is like the bent rods that just go along the floor. I've seen professional drummers, professional session guys still using that kind of kick pedal, and so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You know, there's not one that's, you know, that you have to have this over this. It's like it's all preference, but
yeah, definitely.
And unfortunately, there's so many different options. Like
there's a bazillion of them, and honestly, like, and this is part of, you know, as you go up in the price range, they certainly get more heavy duty and more engineered and smoother and things like that. But one of the things that the more expensive pedals do, like you're saying with the 9000, all the companies, I shouldn't say all the companies, a lot of them, when you get up to that top range, they come with options, and they come with a lot of adjustment available. You know, if you get a low level Pearl pedal, it is what it is. You put the beater in and you attach it to your kick drum and you go. That's like, that's what there is to it. But if you get like the top end ones, there's like tons of adjustments all over the thing, and you can really, really customize them. So that's certainly something that you're buying too when you get a more expensive pedal. You can adjust all the tension on them. You can adjust like the angle of the foot plate and the beater and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of things that you can adjust on them. And it's a little bit surprising because you wouldn't think it's quite as many things available to adjust as there are on some of these pedals. But it does make a difference for sure.
Not even to mention, and we're going to talk about this soon, but not even to mention beater options. Like, we're just talking about the design of the pedal mechanism itself, and then you get into beaters, and it's nuts how big that world of just kick drum pedals is. But with that, let's go ahead and take another quick break and come back and we'll talk more about it. Hey everybody, this is Travis, and I'm bringing you the tip of the day. So today's tip has to do with memory locks. If you don't use memory locks or don't know what memory locks are, the definition is in the name. They are pieces of hardware that lock onto your cymbal stands or snare stands or tom legs, brackets that lock the memory of the placement in place. These are extremely valuable when you're moving your gear back and forth a lot and tearing down and then setting up and tearing down and setting up. It just makes the setup process a whole lot easier because if it's locked in place, it puts it right back to where it was the last time. On top of that, if you don't have memory locks for your stands, you can also take a Sharpie and mark a line or put some electrical tape. And likewise, you can even get a rug and tape out where all the stands go, and it makes setup just way easy. All right, let's get back to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are talking about kick pedals. That was a pretty great story that you just told. I mean, oh wait, you didn't tell a story. Hey, that was a great tip. That was a great tip, Travis. Really excited about that one. Hey, I wanted to mention real quick this idea of longboards. Have you heard that before? Of course you have, right?
I've heard, I've never seen, but yeah.
You've never seen a longboard kick drum pedal?
Not in person, no.
For real? Footboard length. Okay, so this is all about like your traditional. Actually, I don't even know if it's quite traditional. When I think of a kick pedal, most of the time there is the like footboard, which is the part of the pedal that your foot is on and it's actually angled up, and that's the part that's connected. It's the part that moves, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got like a heel plate or something that's typically there's a hinge there, and that part sits flat on the ground. That's what I kind of imagine as like a kick drum pedal, like the shape of where you put your foot.
Right.
But there's also what are referred to as longboard kick drum pedals, and it's just one piece of metal. That whole top part that you put your foot on is all one piece. The entire piece moves, right?
Yeah.
And that actually can just create, if you have your foot more towards where the heel plate would normally be, you actually can create more leverage. You can actually move the pedal a smaller distance.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you can move the pedal a smaller distance because the entire pedal is a hinge now, instead of just like the front like 70% of it or whatever.
Right. There's
closest to the
plate.
kick drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, now the entire piece is one long piece of metal that it's a hinge, right?
Right.
So you can actually generate more speed with those. And I've talked to a couple of people who swear by them. I, again, have never used one of those either, but it also makes me want to sit down and mess around with those too. Especially the idea of having a longboard that's a direct drive. Sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Dude, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess, so, I mean, the one that I always hear about, and it's probably just because I'm a Tama Iron Cobra player, but it's I think they call it the Speed Cobra.
Okay.
Is one that I hear about a fair amount, but there's a lot of companies that make them.
Yeah.
Axis makes them. Actually, Trick, Trick, they make the drum hardware, like throw offs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Trick makes pedals, and they have some really insane kick drum pedals. Like some of the most expensive, like with the most options, are made by Trick. It's pretty wild, but I think they've got some longboards as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely there's a lot of companies that make those. But so that's another kind of strategy or design difference between some of the pedals and some of the pedal companies that can actually give you an advantage and give you some additional speed if you can get comfortable using it, and if that's something that feels good to you,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing, did you have something about that?
I was just going to say, I've seen I think it's the Pearl P930, I think is a longboard. And basically what really just drew me to them, I didn't even realize they were considered longboard pedals, but the fact that they, again, don't have that heel plate that sits at the back of the hinge.
Yeah, it looks kind of weird at first. If you don't, it's like it doesn't click in your mind necessarily. You're just like, that pedal looks weird.
Yeah. Well, like DW makes some, but I don't pivot on my heel whenever I'm playing. Like it's always on the ball of my foot. So seeing something like this, I'm like I'm looking at the Pearl one, I'm thinking, well, I already use the ball of my foot anyway. The
Yeah.
only time I use my heel is if I do double strokes because I do heel to toe. But
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested in playing this and seeing because I've never played one
Yeah.
before.
Right. And I think that they are really good for heel toe stuff. But also just like I tend to find myself like having the ball of my foot. I do play up on the balls of my feet, but I tend to be pretty far up on the pedal.
Yeah.
But with the longboards, it just gives you all that extra room to kind of move further away and generate some extra speed with less motion. So it requires a little bit more force as you come down the pedal more towards where you're sitting. Requires a little more effort, but it's less distance for the pedal to move for that beater to come all the way up and contact the kick drum head.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. It's another feel. It's another option. But again, some guys really swear by them, and especially fast players, especially like metal guys and stuff like that.
I've seen where metal guys will keep the ball of their foot towards the back, like towards the hinge, to where they won't get very high up, and they just get this super speed from the back back of the pedal. And I'm like, how in the world?
Tons of speed. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
What about springs? Do you know
the
of
springs?
much
So
option
the
on
springs. Well, I mean, a lot of the pedals, especially the more expensive ones, as we said, are adjustable. And a lot of them, it's really great because as the springs start to wear out over time, you can tighten them up and keep that tension. So I think that that's really important. And I really noticed it a couple times personally in my playing where I was having a hard time playing something that had some maybe some doubles or just some kind of a little bit quicker kick drum parts.
Yeah.
I was having a lot of hard time playing them. And then I would get down on the floor and tighten up all the springs like significantly. And then it was like a whole different thing. It was like, oh, I can play this just fine right now. So all I need to do is tighten that spring. And really the reality is like, it made my kick drum pedal that much more responsive. It just wasn't coming back to me when I needed it to.
Sure.
The spring wasn't tight enough. So, and that's again, part of the advantage of like the direct drive, like whatever happens with that foot plate happens with the beater. Right. But still, if you don't have the spring pulling it back to that neutral position, that kind of responsiveness, it doesn't matter. You know, that foot plate has got to come back to neutral. So yeah, I think that the springs are super important, and I always actually have a handful of extra springs sitting around just in case.
Oh yeah. I've got an extra one in my tech bag that I take with me. Because I've broken one. And
oh really? I've never broken one.
Well, I think that I had over tensioned it because I wanted that quick response.
Right.
But it's kind of like what we talked about with heads, like tuning your bottom head on your snare. It's like I love cranking it down because I get maximum sensitivity, but it wears the head out a lot faster than it would like a normal tuning. In the same way, like anything that you push, like with the spring, like sure it'll extend and it'll rebound a lot faster, but you're stretching it a lot quicker than it would normally.
It's certainly going to wear out even if it doesn't break. It's certainly going to wear out faster, but it's worth it because then you sound like a better drummer.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually just doing its job. When you use things, they wear out. So whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and especially for gigging drummers too. Like you said, I highly recommend keeping a spare, even if you never touch it. Like if you're in the middle of a show, of course it would happen while you're in front of people that your spring breaks, and if you don't have one, then you're killing 15 minutes asking the opening band for one or whatever. But
you gotta love that at the show when the band is like, does anyone have a kick drum pedal? Is there anyone out there with a kick drum head?
Or how about
are there any bass strings?
Yeah.
Bass strings, that's one you hear a lot, right?
Wait, okay, you don't have that. Do you guys just have some rubber bands? We'll just fashion something together really quick.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so the springs are pretty important. And actually, I did want to mention back to Trick.
Oh yeah.
The company, they actually have something that they were kind of known for is an innovative spring design. And they actually had something like a compression spring. So instead of as you push the pedal down, it's stretching the spring, and then the spring, coming back to neutral as your foot plate comes up. they actually had a design, then have a design where it's a compression spring. So it's actually underneath the pedal and you step on the spring and it springs
What?
back up to you. So it's like the opposite, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. Again, I never used one before, but apparently that's a pretty innovative design. I think they're the first
That
one to do it. I don't know if they're the only ones, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting, right? To step on the spring
yeah.
instead. So I don't know.
Huh. I think they're the only ones who do that.
Yeah, they're the only ones I've ever heard of, but there may be others now.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah, dude, I'm looking at it right now. That's
That's
gnarly.
pretty interesting. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, speaking
Yeah.
of different like pedal design, there are some gnarly ones out there. Like you got single and double, but then you and I found
Yeah.
like quad and triple, and I think it's it's I think the company's Duelist. They make a single pedal with 2 beaters, and it's just like you can activate both of them, and they just rock back and forth. I can't wrap my brain around using that.
Dude, you sent me that video and it just makes no sense to me. I can't imagine like getting good at, I mean, when you watch like a guy play it in like a demo video, it's like kind of crazy. I mean, it's cool that he's good at it, but I'm just like, for real?
Well, even
That's weird.
even trying to describe it, guys, if you're listening, go and look up even the triple beater, because it's a combination. It's got, of course, got 3 beaters, but it's set up like a double bass pedal. Duelist makes it, and it's got your left, like the left pedal on the side, but then the right foot is the same mechanism as the single double pedal we're talking about. And so like your right foot is activating 2 beaters, and then your third is activating the third, or your left foot is activating the third.
That sounds completely absurd. It's just like, I just can't imagine needing that. I mean, it sounds really gimmicky to me. I'm sure there are some people out there that really make use of it, but it just feels like I don't know, just something that's like
unnecessary.
Like a challenge for someone to get good at, and then they can show it off because no one else in the world is good at that. Because it's unnecessary.
Well, I see drummers like Tony Royster who can do unspeakable things on just one foot. Like, he's doing blast beats on a single pedal. I would like to see those guys try this, and because
they try it for like 3 or 4 minutes and then be like, screw that, give me my pedal back.
Let's just go back to the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. The way it's supposed to be.
I think you're right. Yeah. It feels like a challenge.
Yeah, you guys should definitely look that up. Duelist, that's the company, right? You said
Duelist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't know. It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, most people stick with either the single or the double, and that's just enough.
Well, what about remote pedals? Like you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think remotes are kind of cool. I think remotes are mostly cool for hi-hats. I don't know about for kick drums.
Yeah,
but
if you're Terry Bozzio, then you've got like 4 remote kick pedals on your bass drum.
Oh, also ridiculous. Just can't deal with it. I can't deal with it.
Well, it's funny we're talking about remote. And this instance, it's not really a remote, but this guy used it kind of in this way. Do you know who Abe Laboriel Jr. is?
Nope.
He's Paul McCartney's drummer. And
okay.
So he's another big bass drum guy. Like he plays a 26 or 28, but his setup is he sits like a right-hander. He plays like a right-hander, but his rack tom is like, it's like a 14 by 12 or something, but it's up on, like it's up and suspended. And then the way his ride is positioned, it's so in the way that he puts his kick drum on the left side of his hi-hat, but he controls it with his right foot. So he just uses a left-hander's double pedal. And so his kick drum's on the left, but all his toms and his cymbals and everything are positioned for a right-hander. He just plays the kick drum.
Super weird.
It looks really weird, but like he's playing it like it looks strange, but you're just playing normally. But because of the size of his kick drum, he has to use that left-hander double pedal just to put it off to the side. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, the function of a drum kit, like, I mean, physically it has to be set up a certain way so that you can reach things and whatnot. But then when you start getting into remote, whether you're talking about any sort of like kick drum remote kind of situation or hi-hat remote, you can start putting things, I guess, wherever you want, you know?
Yeah.
But that's like something that most of us don't really think about. But I guess that possibility is out there. And I suppose it lends itself to coming up with some pretty wild things, for sure.
Definitely.
That's interesting. Well, everybody look that stuff up and send us weird screenshots of people playing ridiculous looking sets with remote equipment. That'll be great.
For sure. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time for today, but as always, thank you guys for listening, and make sure to go give us a nice 4 or 5 stars, preferably 5, and a little review. And feel free to reach out to us on all of our socials like Facebook, Twitter, and Insta. And you can also email us at dave@drumchats.com and travis@drumchats.com. And with that being said, stay tuned for our next episode on kick drum beaters. So we're going to be able to expand a little bit more on that whole world. Dave, any last words?
No, that's going to be it for today.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, guys. You're listening to the Drum Chats podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.